market has us in a crazy position right now, and I think that we should take a look at a few big tech stocks. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education, and do you guys know why Cinderella was bad at soccer? She kept running away from the ball. No cliffhangers here. Google, Apple, Meta, we're going to look at them in context with the overall markets, and I'm also going to show you about Moo and your free stocks, and I will tell you also about seeing my buys and sells over at the Patreon and the options course that I'm constructing over there. In the meantime, as usual, getting right into the charts. So the very first chart that I have for you here is my friend QQQ tracking the Nasdaq 100. Since we're talking big tech, this is something that we should most definitely take an examination of, and also the SPY I think is also worth it, because they are included in the S&P as well. So when we look at this, you can see we're pretty much even across the bottom here. So that would make it more of a descending triangle pattern that we would have. And we came off the bottom of this thing, and I'll put the Bollinger Bands on just for a second, because for the Bollinger Bands, you can see that we've been on the outside of that for the past 3 out of the 4 trading days, at least by closing prices. So that's most definitely something to pay attention to, and I anticipated a bounce coming out of that. And so far, as of the pre-market hours, it looks like that could work out very positively for us. And we want to keep that in mind with what we're going to look at for the different companies in this, for Google, Apple, and Meta coming up here. So will we break through the bottom of this? Time will tell. We'll see if that happens. I do expect that we get some retracement. Possibly from here, from 354, we see 360, 364, and then that ultimate level of resistance coming in at 372. Should we get there, which, by the way, that would put us above the 50-day from where we're at right now. Should we retrace all the way back up to 372? And that's most definitely something we want to watch. We do have room up to this trend line that you see right here, and 372 would, if we were following this trend line, if we were to touch it and roll back down, that wouldn't happen until we come all the way out to October the 13th. So that'd be a while to make it back up to there. Should we see it staying down below the 50-day, not making up to this trend line, as I said in previous videos, would be a bearish sign for us that we would sooner return down to this support and possibly show us that we're about to break through it sooner. And you'll notice that we did put in a new low here. We tagged at 353.21, and the previous low before that was 354.20. So just keep that in mind as you look at these, that we have lower highs, lower lows, and that's sort of what I'm basing a lot of this commentary on. So I said it was worthwhile to look at the SPY, because the SPY actually has a slightly different look when we look at it here, and we have more of a bearish channel happening. And for this one, we had a closing price of about 426, which is where I thought we'd go should we break 430. And then this one with the Bollinger Bands, we put them up there, pretty much the same thing, only a worse sell off, a worse time. So I do think that we get that bounce in the near term from this, that we could come back up and revisit the underside of 430, and then up from that 434, 438. And then the ultimate rejection level coming in at about 442, which if we put up on there, it would be about there. And for this one, the 50-day is currently between 444 and 445. So I want to be watching that, and that 50-day staying below it would be a sign. Getting rejected off of it could tell us that we're being sent back down. So that's if we see any sort of bounce or rally between now and then. And I don't know. We'll see how far we move up from there, and staying below that 438 level, even below the 434. I think those are going to be critical for us for telling us the direction of the market coming up here. All right, so let's get into those big tech names. So let's get over into Google, and what I have in magenta here, I think these are ultimate support and rejection levels that we have taking place. 140 is a number that I called out before as strong resistance, and I played this with a put option as I saw this ascending triangle play out, which can be a bearish reversal sign for us. And you'll see that that's exactly what we got from this, and we are currently down below the 50-day, and that 50-day for this comes in at about 132. So that's most definitely something that we want to pay attention to, as 132 is one of our resistance levels. Now, if we open up the pre-market here, it looks like we're currently sitting about 130, and 130 is a really nice round number for us that would not only can we bounce off of it, but we can also as support, but we can also bounce off it as resistance as well. And some of the other levels that we have, 138, 135, and 132, as I mentioned before, for resistance, and then support 128, 127, 123, and then all the way down here, which I believe to be the ultimate support level, coming down to 120. So what do I see for this? Well, we are on the underside of the 50-day. We do have some dropping momentum that's happening here, but when we looked at the SPY and the Qs, the momentum there, if I just put it back up for just a second, we'll jump back to Q. It looks pretty much the same for both of them. Our momentum is pretty much near that oversold territory, and so a bounce is understandable to get. So should we get that bounce, I think that Google will also put in some positive momentum up here, and it really makes a difference if we cross over 50 or not on the RSI, or if we start breaking back down away from it. And you can actually look at this in terms of higher highs and higher lows for that momentum to see how exactly it's going. So here we put in a lot of lower lows and lower highs, and you'll notice that the stock trailed off. So you can read it somewhat like a stock chart, but it's not quite like that. It's a bit different than the stock chart being a momentum indicator. And you can certainly get conflicting signals on that, and that would actually be called a divergence. You have bearish and bullish divergence, which I don't really see strong signs of right here as we look at Google. As a matter of fact, it looks quite confirmatory at the moment. So we're going to have to wait and see and watch and see what happens. If we go down to the hourly view on this and we look at the momentum here, you can see that we have some rising momentum leading up to that bounce that I think that we're going to get. And like I said, with the daily chart, we're looking for that momentum indicator. We have to break back over this point right here in the momentum indicator, which actually is behind my picture. So let me move that. That is about 42. So I think that return to 50 is going to be that signal that we look for. And crossing 50 is going to be the thing that would really, not only in the RSI, but then also crossing the 50-day simple moving average that I have up here. Both of those are going to be bullish signals for us. So we're going to be on the lookout for that. So that way, if we are playing these stocks, that we are on the correct side of them. And I actually took, I think, 2 different put option positions on this. Both cashed out very, very well for me. So it did take a while for the first one to play out because I played it back in here somewhere around early September. And it really took until, I believe, maybe it was this day, the 20th. I'd have to go back and look and see when I cashed in on that, but that did pay out handsomely for me. So let's move from there on to Apple. And Apple has a descending triangle look to it. I have ultimate resist coming in at about $180 per share, and then ultimate support coming in at about $166. And so you can see we're actually a little bit closer as of the closing price yesterday to that support level, and it is, we'll see if we break this formation or not. It's going to happen eventually. And then there are some alternatives that we could look at. For example, one of those things that we could look at is just a little bit of a very slow, sluggish bear channel coming out right here. And when I say slow and sluggish, you can even see it in the momentum indicator if you know how to look at it. So it is possible you come back up and we retest this and get rejected around the 178 level, which is one of the resistance levels that we have, 178, 177. And then there's also 174 from the top side of this thing. 172 is an area that we keep getting rejected at. And when we look pre-market on this one, we're at 172.6. So maybe we see 174 come out of that today. We're going to have to watch and see. And then dropping through the bottom of this, should we start to see support levels come out, 170 is certainly an area of resistance, or I'm sorry, area of support for us. And then 166 is, like I said, the ultimate support. And I think we get out of that. And the 200-day comes in at 165.47 as of yesterday's close. So I think 166 could be reasonable for us in the near term, possibly up as high as 168. But like I said, ultimate support, finding it down at 166. And I do want to just make one side comment here from my personal life with Apple, is that right now I have this phone, which is an iPhone XS, and it is nearly a brick or a paperweight. And I think I've figured out what the cause is, and it's something physical in here that I could fix, but I am in the market for a new cell phone. So I was trying to get a hold of either the 15 Pro or the 15 Pro Max, because for the creator space, it seems to make a lot of sense to go with the upgraded model with the USB-C features and how fast it can actually transfer data, and then also some of the camera qualities of it. I think it'd actually be better than this camera that I'm currently recording on, which cost me, I think, $700 to $900. I'd have to go and look, and if I was actually going to get another DSLR camera that would just be a camera, it would be something that would likely very well exceed what I would pay for that iPhone 15 Pro. However, I can't touch them. I can't get a hold of them, at least not through the Apple stores. They are sold out in every Apple store, and the deliveries on them go all the way out until the end of October right now. October 26th is the earliest delivery date that I see when I go in and look. So if you guys have any different experience from that, you can let me know. I know that I went and looked on Saturday and I could have ordered it, and then I think still Sunday I could have ordered it, and then by Monday it said sold out in all stores that I think the 12 different stores or so that are within like 2 to 3 hours of where I live. There are none within an hour of where I live. I have to go an hour and a half just to get there. But so the Apple stores themselves, kind of a bust. I went to a Verizon store and they're like, nah, we're not going to hold any of that stuff. It's too expensive for us to keep in inventory. So that was also kind of crazy. So I have to look and see if we can actually get those phones when we order online from like Verizon or AT&T or T-Mobile to see if their inventories are any better. But I know that there are some supply shortages still for Apple, but how much of that is supply, how much of that is demand? So when we go back and look at these charts and we read price targets of like $200 per share, I think a 208 just got dropped recently. Let me go to the news here. So Bank of America Securities put in at 208. If demand really is that strong and it's holding out for Apple, I mean, Apple's a good company. They're a great company. What am I saying? I don't mean to downplay it at all. I'm just trying to make light of the fact that should we get the sell-off and hit those supports, that could be a very good place where, that we have continued demand and they have an enormous economic moat and they have one of the largest, if not the largest market caps that we have in the stock market. I think they come in at around 2.6 trillion, maybe. Let's go ahead and look because it's listed here as well. Yeah, okay, so it's 2.7 trillion as of its current price. So for Apple, you don't get to be a multi-trillion-dollar company by just being okay. You have to be great, and they're there. And I'm starting to sound like an Apple fanboy. One final story, and I'll move on to more technicals for you. And that would be when my phone died yesterday morning, I had this brick of a phone. I had my 2017 MacBook Pro, and that thing just randomly shut off on me. And so I had to plug into power. I'm trying to get that restarted, and my desktop, which I use for creation and I also use for the market analyses, that was updating. So I have 3 different Apple devices on my desk, none of which were usable for like 10 to 15 minutes time. The only working Apple device that I had at the time was my watch, and that wasn't very much help to me at all. Now's a good time to tell you about the free stocks from Moomoo by using my link down in the description. You get up to 16 free stocks. Here's the deposit levels. Here's the free stocks that go with those deposit levels. And note that free share of Tesla or Google that goes along with that $5,000 deposit level. Over at the Patreon, you can get access to my Discord through that, which is where you can see my buys and sells on the Patreon itself. I have my options course, and the options course goes from the very beginner. It will go up through the advanced trading strategies as I build that out. And then also I have my NVIDIA stock price prediction, and I will be putting up by this weekend my Tesla stock price prediction and earnings forecast going out through 2030. The NVIDIA earnings forecast goes out through 2028. And I think that they are very critical and crucial documents that you should check out to do your homework on and further that research, just any way that I can find to add that value and bring more opportunity to you guys. All right, let's get away from that. Let's go over to Meta now. So over for Meta, there we are. So for Meta, they have an event today that kicks off at 10 a.m. That's Pacific time though, so it's actually going to be 1 p.m. as per the market time, as per Eastern time. So we'll want to be watching for that. And I made an announcement yesterday in my Discord when I discovered that that was the case. That catalyst could be something that either pops us out of the top of this or down through the bottom of this. So I wanted my Discord members, my patrons, to be aware that that is something that could absolutely happen to us, and we would want to be watching out for it, because with that thrown in there, even though we're below the 50-day, we're riding along the bottom of this thing, it is possible that we break out through the bottom. If people were in put option positions for this, expecting some sort of drop to come out with the rest of the market weakness, which it has not sold off the same way we saw in the S&P, not the sale, it sold off the same way Google has, it hasn't sold off the same way Apple has. This event could be that thing. Maybe we get a bit of the sell the news when it comes out, but also the market bouncing, that could also be something conflicting. And it could be something that actually make a really big announcement, and we haven't seen that reaction yet. So that big announcement could be the thing, or the news could be the thing that we were buying into that kept it propped up. I just don't know. We're going to have to see as it plays out here. So what I have for the ultimate resistance is 325, ultimate support coming down here to 275. So those are big moves, almost $25 moves in each direction. We are down below the 300 line, which is going to be significant resistance for us. As we look at that in the pre-market, we're actually sitting at $300.30. So pre-market, low volume time, we do, it is possible we do push up over that $300 level, and the 50-day right now rocking at between 301 and 302. So staying down below that 50-day, bearish signal for us. Maybe we sell off further. Maybe we break through the bottom of this. Maybe that happens following this event or with the onset of this event. We're just going to have to watch. Maybe we do pop through the top of it. So here are the different resistance and support levels. So for Meta, 317 down from that. So right about here, 317, and then down to 310 is also another resistance level that we have. 305 is another place that we could stall out, all above 300. So 305, 310, 317, and 325. Down through the bottom of this thing, we have supports going all the way down to about 293, 292, and then about 290 is where we want to be watching those. And then falling off that 290, you could argue that 285 could really come in and surprise us, but I think the really strong support comes in all the way down here at 275. And if we get strong market movements and Meta happens to join the party with those market movements, that could be something where we start to experience that pressure. All I got to say is either way, we're going to break this pattern eventually. This narrowing that we have, we're going to either break through the top or the bottom. And today, who's to say if that could be the day? But I do think that today's news that we have coming out. It's actually a 2-day event, so today and tomorrow from Meta could be enough that really starts to push us out of this formation and tell us the next direction for Meta. So we'll be on the lookout for that. So as per the momentum indicator that we have been sort of consolidating here and tapering off to the downside. We've been putting in lower lows and lower highs, but dancing around the 50, throwing mixed signals. And we have on the RSI closed down below the 50 mark on this. So we do want to be watching that. Should we put in another lower low, that could be very confirmatory for us for the momentum that we're actually going to revisit some of those different support levels. Should we cross strongly back above the 50, that would tell us that we're going to hit some of those retest levels and be looking for, if we're playing options wise, stock wise, you could just buy the stock, go long, not financial advice or anything. Should we see to the upside of this, and if you expect to the downside, then of course you could short the stock. And then if you're doing the options plays, as I've talked a lot about in this channel, that would be calls for going long, puts for going short, unless of course you're a writer of those options, in which case that also changes things a little bit, but that kind of gets into the weeds. So let me wrap this up. Let me summarize this thing. So the markets right now are looking sort of on the oversold side, and because of the way that we've moved so sharply downward, I thought maybe we'd get a bounce, and I put out some call options for T, Q, Q, Q in order to take advantage of that, maybe recollect some of the dollars that we have on the way back up for this, maybe finance some more of those puts. Should we start to head back down? Should we start to see further signals of that direction? I'm going to keep on playing short-term options in the markets to keep on taking advantage of those short-term moves. And then I also have some longer-term options to take advantage of those longer moves that we have. For Google, I think that we do bounce. We want to watch the 50-day for Google, and for Meta, it's going to be absolutely critical and crucial that we watch that value. Same thing for Apple, that we're watching those numbers as they come out, see where we're resisting, see where we're finding support, and then making our game plan based off of that, and then keeping in mind the market bias that also surrounds it. We do have Q3 earnings coming up. That's going to be a really critical time to watch big banks and big tech, that they're going to be things that are going to be even more impactful to the markets than usual, because we want to see how exactly they're faring. If you guys like my commentary, go ahead and hit that like button. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget about signing up for the Patreon if you want to see what I'm buying and selling, get access to my options course. Like I said, from the very beginner to the advanced option trading strategies, where I'm going with that thing. And then also about your free stocks from Moomoo. Use that link down in the description, sign up and get those free stocks. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education. Remember, my friends, that learning is earning, and we'll see you in the next video.